Good morning. How is everyone doing? Good, good. Please put smiles on because I come to this country and I see people not smiling. I don't know why. So show me some smiles, please. Okay. I will talk today the role about tokenization in a global economy. I don't know if you heard about that before. Clicker is not working. Now it's working. Okay. No, I see it here, but not here. Okay, good. Okay, short introduction of my side. I'm Juergen Hoebarth. I'm originally European, but I live since 10 years now in Asia. I came into cryptocurrencies in the early days of 2014. Was a very interesting time. But back then, for me, how to explain it, it was not that revolutionary, actually. It was just like transferring money from A to B. But I think a little bit later, when the white paper from Vitalik Buterin came out, it clicked for me, and I was thinking, oh wow. And basically it's called programmable money, where that you can put smart contracts into the blockchain, which are basically little programs everyone can trust and everyone can look into. How many of you basically own crypto? Do have a little bit of an idea about the audience? Okay, that's interesting. So how many of those who own crypto buy something with crypto? Okay, less people, so it's interesting. So if you think about it, where we are in this whole time frame, it's an adoption phase, to be honest. And it's going up, it's going down. If you were in 2008, no, 10, sorry. It was going up, it was going down. If you're in 2014, it was going up and it's going down. But I think last time it was a very interesting thing because normally adoption in this industry happens through programmers. And then for the first time, speculators came in. And what do speculators do? They don't care about underlying technologies, they care about numbers. So somehow I see the industry at the moment, you have on this side the programmers and on that side the speculators, but there are no product people, no marketing people, no communication people in between. This is basically what will happen in the next phase. If you talk about tokenization, it's maybe a little bit more advanced than just talking about Bitcoin and blockchain, but tokenization uses the same fundamental underlying technology. And let's see what happens at the moment. I think people have heard about it, the tokenization of art, like fractional ownership of art pieces. The people have heard about real estate investment trusts which are getting tokenized, assets like gold, money, because in the end, a stable coin is just a tokenized money. And also too, much more popular at the moment because we have people from the finance industry in, is the tokenization of securities. So I'm not just talking about it, you can see it. A lot of media is reporting about it. Maybe I'm living in a bubble because everyone around me is in cryptocurrency. So is there anyone here who has never heard about the term of tokenization? Okay, that's good. But to give you an idea why this is important. So everyone can remember this, I'm assuming, digitalization. And it was like 10, 15 years ago, I'm going to a conference and someone is talking about an MP3 and I was like, whoa, that's cool. And you know, I was part of the music industry and was doing music festivals. And everyone back then was like, no, that will not survive and something like streaming services will not survive. But as we have seen the last 10 to 15 years, all those four industries basically changed dramatically. Like old players got wiped out, new players moved into the market. And what was the result of digitalization? The result basically was I can now read theoretically whatever newspaper around the world. If it's a newspaper in Australia, I can read it now through the internet. This was for me like back then when I discovered the internet like 25 years ago? No, something like that. Was very astonishing for me because I can just go into the internet and go somewhere else. The same thing like now I can theoretically listen to any song, anytime, anywhere. The same is any book is accessible. Anything, a movie is like who is now still pirating movie? It's so convenient, you don't need to pirate anymore. And basically, the most interesting thing, but most useless thing, theoretically I could call anyone in the world, but why would I do it? So, and digitalization, how it was described, oops, this screen is changed. It's the process of converting basically information in a digital format. Could I have my slides on the screen? Sorry, I don't see here anything. Okay, but what about these industries? How much of digitalization happened in these industries? The legal industry, not really much. What happened in the finance industry? They just put existing business models into the digital space. What happened in the identity industry? I still carry around the passport. Yes, there is an NFC chip inside, but it's not really completely digitalized. So I think these are some of the industries which are up for the next wave of disruption. And I call it tokenization, and I think it's somehow the term. So like digitalization is wave 1 and wave 2 is tokenization, where a lot of other industries get completely transformed. And as we have seen, in digitalization is about bringing information online. Now it's about the representation of value. Anything with value. It can be your passport, your university certificate, it can be your patent. But to be able to do this, we need something which is called NFTs, non-fungible tokens. There are an extended version of tokens which are acting like a container. I can put something in. And the difference between a fungible token is like, you know, Bitcoin. Each Bitcoin is the same. If I have a Bitcoin and you have a Bitcoin, they have the same value. But maybe some of you have heard about CryptoKitties. It's a very funny story, and people think you can make millions and make copies of it, but it's just a bunch of random guys who have too much money who were paying shitload of money for some funny cartoons. But there's something underlining. It's the non-fungible tokens. So each CryptoKitty is different. So each CryptoKitty has a different value or can represent a different value. So have you ever tried to exchange money nowadays? It's still boring and it's complicated. Have you ever tried to buy property in a foreign country? So recently I wanted to buy a property in Portugal. Complicated, not easy to transact. If I want now to read a newspaper in Portugal, easy to do. Why can I not do this with property? The saying is, if I ask you now, you're coming here with a car, can you prove me your ownership? Not really. The same is, you know, if you have licenses you own for a software, there's no secondary market for software licenses. Why? You have it once and then it's basically, that's it. You cannot transfer it. Also to like, which I find the most interesting industry because I was involved in that, was the online travel industry. It hasn't changed since the internet started, which is completely ridiculous. If you think about how still a ticket's issued, the system is like old as, I don't use the word now. Also to like identities. Yes, as I said, we have NFC chips, something like this, but there's still more. I mean, governments are working now on digital identity, but as I'm an evangelist of decentralization, tokenization, distribution, I'm not that happy that the government controls everything. That's a little bit my own spleen. Or you ever try to sell a ticket. And if you think about it, contracts. We are living in a digital age, but everyone is still basically using a representation of a paper document where it's putting on a digital signature. Very very complicated, very inconvenient, because they even don't know what's in the document. So no one can really, I can easily fake a signature of a purchase order. There's no security, and then you have two things, and which one was earlier, and no one can really prove it. This happens with employment contracts. It happens with cinema tickets. I mean, we still buy cinema tickets in a very old-fashioned way. Ferry tickets, flight tickets, concert tickets. And a very big area, licenses and certificates. They're still very old school. So I'm going to apply at university in Hong Kong. And you cannot imagine what it means. So I need to call my university in London to send a physical paper over which confirms that I did my BA in London. We are living in a digital age. Why is that so complicated? Or even like fishing licenses, it's like driving licenses, everything like this. If you want to use a driving license, it's a hard pain to get it back. Or patents, they're still very old school. And if you think further, tokenization can go even into areas like objects, physical objects, cars. So everyone knows Tesla. And imagine Tesla is basically a car which sends a lot of data back and forward. So imagine with Tesla comes a non-fungible token which proves the ownership. The non-fungible token can hold crypto assets, which is saying, oh, I want to use the, like all the software on the Tesla is basically not standard. If you want to have autopilot, you need to pay $2,000 extra. The car still can do it, but the function is not free. So imagine something like you have ownership of the car and you can unlock certain areas of it. The same is like with commodities, which is, I think, one of the first areas where tokenization comes in, because we all know moving gold around is boring. And the problem I'm having here is, at the moment it's like everyone can, no one can remember because we were not born there, the railway system. So when we're looking at the railway system in the US, how it was built, they have different width of rail tracks. How inconvenient is that for a manufacturer, for standardization? So what we have at the moment is like, I think there are, I don't know how many companies, 40, 50 companies, who are trying to tokenize gold on their own standard. And it's just a normal way of how industries are working, because I was involved in the early days in the traditional internet industry, and back then everyone was building content management systems. And each agency's asset was, I build a content management system, I get the contract with Vodafone, they pay me $2 million a year to use it, that's it. Nowadays, there's standardizations in this area. So no one is really building their own content management system anymore. Something like WordPress is so common. If you work in an agency and you would write in your purchase order, I am programming a system where you can post your news online, they would say, why? Just use WordPress. Commodities, as I said before, is an area which is going, and then this one, financial products. I think everyone maybe heard about the term STOs, security tokens. I don't like that word personally that much, because he's like, no, I'm involved in something like this as well, but we have one problem in this industry. We are lending words from different other industries, like whales. It's from the poker universe. Then we have something like market cap. But a market cap in a traditional financial world doesn't represent what a market cap in our universe represents. But anyway, I think financial products, I would like to see them a little bit different, because it's now we're just using the blockchain technology to adapt to what is there, but we don't change the framework. We still need to have all this complicated, I mean, if you look into it, how complicated it is to issue a security token and then transfer ownership and update the register and all the different exchanges and all the different standards, it's still a mess. But everything starts out as a mess and then clarity comes. One thing, what is the most thing what I want that you guys take from my talk is, if you're in that industry, don't focus too much about buying Bitcoin, mining Bitcoin, that is over. So if you're not in that game already, then you have so everyone which is in this game has a very unfair advantage. They know the industry, they know how it works. If you have maybe a shitload of money to spend it in a new company and you will make more money than with mining, to be honest. Buying Bitcoins out of a hedge for long term, yes, is okay. Buying shitcoins, sorry for using that terms, not, because we are now in this phase, we have I call them like major coins, then we have altcoins, and then we have shitcoins. And shitcoins will never rise. And the only purpose why they were rising is because the base currency Ether was going up. So it's dragging everything along. And everyone is thinking in fiat. But actually what you should need to think is how to accumulate more in Ether or in Bitcoin. So digitalization happened from 2005 to 2020. It's basically done, more or less. We know how it works. Now it's just a battle. Netflix battles against Hulu, battles against Disney. It's basically the battle phase. Everyone knows that model is working. Apple is starting to battle in the music industry, some other players as well. I don't know if it takes really that long until 2035, but I'm assuming because adoption nowadays, I think is at the point where it's nearly the final point of acceleration. Because to change something, it needs processes and corporations. And processes and corporations, you cannot change things overnight. So you need adoption, and I think it could be like 2030 that we see things like this happen. Because I know the Austrian government is talking about e-governance since 20 years somehow, but never really anything proper happened. And they're basically just hiring people as consultants to tell them each 2 years new things. That's how it works. To answer the question from the beginning, why does this all count? As digitalization was changing a lot of industries, so will tokenization. But tokenization, from my perspective, is changing much larger industries. So it's a much larger shift. And it's not only the financial industry, as I say, it's patent industry, everything. I mean, I have a dream of utopia where you don't need accountants because everything works automatically. I don't know, no accountant likes that because you disrupt the whole industry and make them obsolete. Maybe there will be different terms. Yeah. At the moment, thank you very much for listening to my speech. You can follow me on juergenhoebarth.com. My company is called Tokenization Limited. I'm involved as well in a security token company, which is called Black Manta. He from Germany most likely knows them. And I'm also involved in a momentum protocol where we're basically tokenizing the whole loyalty industry. Thank you very much. And anyone, any question? No one. Okay.
Any questions? Oh, yeah. Bring in the mic.
Thanks. So, Juergen, where do you see the legal industry to?
Sorry?
The legal industry, you mentioned a couple of industries that are going to be
Yeah, the legal industry is like this.
Where's that heading in the immediate future?
In the immediate future, you know, if I buy a flat, why do I need to pay $2,000 for a transaction? It's a standard contract. And if you talk with, particularly in Hong Kong, if you talk with a lawyer, they're like, oh, we specialize in just selling flats because it's just like printing money. Each time I'm putting in my signature, there's $2,000, $2,000, $2,000. So I think the legal industry, tokenization is a part of it because you need to differentiate between case law and the European continental law. I think there's a little bit of a difference. Like if you think about case law, put all the cases into an AI machine, and there are machines who are capable to process it, then you basically have a lot of research done. But I think the legal industry, the final step will always be human. I'm a believer machines are just helping and doing the grind work. But the final decision, because machines don't have emotions, and my feeling is, and I hope AIs will not have emotions. Does that partly answer your question?
We're going to take this off stage.
Okay,
Later
perfect.
On. Thank you.
One question here.
Thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. Yeah. And I have a question, like also regarding probably the previous one about the legal issues. I think the token it's really great thing and it's fantastic. We really want to have as more tokenization as possible. But how it will work if there is some, let's say, legal claims? If everything is fine, as there is no legal issues, no question from both parties, it's fantastic. But if somebody goes to the court and say, oh, I didn't sign it, or my account was broken or hacked, and something goes wrong, how the token model works in this
The token model could work in this, like you need to think about the whole economy. So There could be something which is called an oracle, which is making decision, is this claim that this is wrong? And you have like independent judges somehow. So people would, and I know what you mean because, as I say, it's a process how it's going. So in the beginning, maybe it's just, if you have a sales contract or something like this, a divorce contract. It's very funny to imagine you get divorced through the blockchain. But if it's clear as a 50-50 split, why do bother? For me, it's just like, okay, why do you have to spend $20,000 to the lawyer if it can be done in a simple way? And I think you need to think it from this perspective. It's like, how the gaming industry, how complex it is nowadays? And think about Pong. We are still in the level of we need to solve the Pong problem. And along the way, we will know how to solve a World of Warcraft universe. If you would have said to Atari times, to someone, you will have World of Warcraft, they would say, it's not possible. How do we do this? I think it's very similar here. So start with small things, and then along the process, you will figure out how more complex things you can solve. Does that help?